moral of this, the stages of life, right? Okay, I'm live now. Okay, cool. So the moral of this story is going to be the stages of life and moving out of your comfort zone. So moving away from fear into faith, going forward with it, right? It's Sunday. So I knew that I had to talk about this because when I was eating my banana this morning, drinking my cup of coffee, I was like, dang, that's crazy. Because the banana has all these spots on it and it's like about to be overripe. And then I started thinking about like how that could correlate to life and all these other things. So I really started to break down the stages. But then tonight, as I was getting ready to go and wash my face and just kind of go to bed, I was like, why does this keep coming up in my head that I need to talk about this? So I have a bunch of books in my office. I've got 4 different bookshelves in my office. And so I was wondering what type of literature would back what I was getting ready to talk to you guys about, right? So one of the books that I grabbed was John C. Maxwell. This one's Failing Forward. And we're going to talk about the things that he discussed in here in relation to the last stage of how I'm correlating that to where a banana is in its ripeness. And then the other book was Believe. And I actually never read this book before. I bought this book from Goodwill. I bought this book from Goodwill, 50% off. But what I did was I Googled because I wanted some biblical reference to what I was talking about because today is Sunday. And for those of you who don't know, I am really working on my walk. Okay. Sometimes I walk left, walk right, walk around, but I'm trying to work on this walk with God. So I found a biblical reference. Okay. And in this book, I was like, I wonder what's going to be good in here that will help me with what I had talked to you guys about. What I Googled on the internet was how staying in your comfort zone is killing you, biblical reference, right? And so whatever came up that was in there, and I was like, oh, let me look at this because this book is about believing in yourself and like believing in the word and all that stuff. So I popped this book open to a random page. I've never read this book before. And literally the exact same thing that I read, the quote that I read on the internet was the exact same quote that I flipped to in this book. And I was like, oh, I gotta talk to y'all. So that's what we're gonna talk about tonight, okay? Okay, cool. So life is like a banana. So the first stage of a banana is when it's super duper green, right? It's just unripe. And at this stage of life in general, we can assume that this is the stage of life where we're technically called green, right? We're green. We don't know any better. Okay, so we're not ready to exactly alignment. You are so right. And I said that to myself before I went live today because I wasn't even wanting to go live. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be obedient. So the first stage of a banana is when it is green. And at that stage, it's not ready essentially to be consumed yet. I know people say you can't consume it, but essentially people like to wait until it turns yellow for them to consume it. And so at this stage of the banana, this is where it's green. And as we are concerned, we are also considered to be green at this stage in our life. This is before life experiences hit us. We're just new to the world, right? We haven't been hurt yet. We haven't been in any situations that could really deviate our thought processes or anything like that. We are just sunshining, walking on about the world, and just existing. So then as you move through life and as the banana starts to get ripe, right, it starts to turn that big bright yellow that we like to say, okay, I'm about to eat this banana now, right? So at this point, this is when you're ready for life. This is when you're like, you know what? I'm 18. I'm grown. I'm ready to step out. I have big dreams. I have all these things I want to accomplish. And life still hasn't quite hit yet. But you just know that you are ready to go. Just like a banana has reached its yellow stage and it's saying, hey, I'm ready to eat. You can go ahead and consume me. At the yellow stage of the banana in our lives, we're just like, yes, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take on the world because now we've reached the age where we say, we're grown. We're still not grown, but when you're saying you're grown, you know you're not grown, right? So anybody who's between the ages of 18 and 21, you out there saying you're grown, you're not quite grown yet. That's the yellow stage of the banana. And so then life starts to hit and we start to have these experiences and we start to have, whether they're positive experiences, negative experiences, breakups, job losses, whatever. And this is when you go out in the world and you get beat up a little bit. And as I was eating my banana and I saw the spots on the banana, I was like, this banana looks so beat up. And my kids won't eat a ripened banana because to them, it looks like it's gone bad. But for me, I knew that the banana was sweeter because it had all of those spots on it, right? I knew that it would have started to get ripened because it had those spots on it. So to them, when they saw the banana, they said, "Oh, mommy, that's old, throw it away." But just like life, when you start to go through different experiences and you start to get beat up a little bit and you start to go through these different stages of your life, and you're like, okay, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm developing, but life has beat me up a little bit. But that's where it starts to get sweeter because you're learning yourself now. So just like a banana, when it starts to have those spots and it's starting to get real ripe, and to people on the outside, it may look like, oh, I'm not going to eat that. That banana's ugly. That banana's gone bad. But just like in life, when we start to really start to go through things, we start to learn ourselves at a deeper level, right? We start to really understand what our likes are, our dislikes are, how we want to be treated, how we want to be talked to, what our standards are. But it takes going through different things in life for you to get to that stage. But then you reach a place where, like a banana, it gets overripe. Okay. And in this overripe stage of the banana, this is where you have to make some decisions. You're going to say, okay, I'm either going to make some banana bread with this, or I have to throw this out because it's overripe. And so just like in life, if you stay in one place for too long, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get to a place to where you're in your comfort zone. And if you stay in that comfort zone for too long, you will start to revert backwards. And your life will no longer start to grow and develop from seasons of changes, right? But if you decide that I see that my life is not changing and there's some things that I need to change at this point, then you can prevent your life from getting over ripened in the comfort zone. So then that's when I started thinking about, well, what keeps people in their comfort zones? And I'm not going to encourage anybody to say, oh, okay, jump. This is not about starting a business. This is just talking about you as an individual. You don't have to start a business to grow. You can just grow in your own personal walk with yourself, getting to know yourself, or whatever the case may be. But everybody at every stage of their life should still be focusing on growing. And so when I started looking up stuff and I was wondering, like, what's keeping people stuck? Like, what is it that's keeping you stuck? And there's fears that's associated around it, right? The just not wanting to move away from what you know, because what if what you don't know doesn't work out? And now you work so hard to get the things that you currently have. But if you step out from that, then now you're risking losing everything that you've built. You're risking losing the friendships, the family, the coworkers, the career. You're risking losing everything because you're too afraid to step out and continue to grow, right? And then I thought about it, I said, okay, well, maybe it's failing, because I know a lot of people don't like looking like they can't do something. That's why if somebody says at this age they can't swim, they're not going to try to learn to swim, because then everybody else around them knows how to swim and they're not going to go get in the water to look silly in the water, right? So I'm 34 years old and I know people that don't know how to swim. And they're refusing to learn how to swim and refusing to get in the water because they don't want to look silly, because they know they're going to fail at it. And so in this book, John C. Maxwell, Failing Forward, I started to think about myself and just like the journey that I've been on over the years. And I know a lot of you guys only know me from finance, but I did own a daycare and I did own a women's only gym with childcare. But at every stage of where I thought I was growing, I failed at every single stage. And when I saw this book, Failing Forward, I was like, dang, that's crazy, because every time I failed, I never looked at it as there's something that I'm doing wrong. More so, there's something that I need to learn from. And so I don't know if you're in a season to where, just like a banana, it's gotten overripe, and right now you've capped your growth. And so you're wanting to do something, but don't know what to do. And then the fear of doing something new is really just crippling you. And so in his book, he was talking about there are 15 ways in which you can begin to fail forward. Okay. So I don't want you guys to be stuck in a mode of, oh, everything is fine, I'm just comfortable with how this is, life is good with how this is. Life is going to continue to change with or without you. So it's on you to make a decision to say, I'm going to continue to work and develop on who I am so that when life happens, I'm prepared for it. I was at this event called Women in Wine Weekend, and they had all these speakers, and they were talking about relationships and careers and being an entrepreneur and all of this stuff. And all of them had to move past some sort of trauma, some sort of 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 debilitating something, whether it been health or just something like tragic or something happened. They all had to move past it. But if they let the fear of the situation that they were in stop them, then they would never grow to become who they are. And all of them were very successful entrepreneurs, right? Some of them had very successful careers. And so what John C. Maxwell says about failing forward, he says the first thing you have to do is you have to realize there is one major difference from average people and achieving people. So achieving people, again, doesn't mean that you're an entrepreneur, because I know a lot of people you guys get beat over the head with be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, but be the best version of yourself. And if you can be the best version of yourself, then that still means that you're achieving. Okay. So there's a big difference between an average person and an achieving person. And you also need to learn a new definition of failure. Many people look at failure and say, this is something I just cannot do. But if a baby looked at walking as a failure, then they would never keep getting up to learn to walk. And then eventually they would learn to run. So if you look at failing and saying, I just can't do something, then you're never going to be able to do it. But if you look at failure as a lesson and say, okay, it didn't work this time, but if I can take what I learned in that time when I failed, then the next time that I try it, I might just get a little bit further. And then if I failed that time, I might just still get a little bit further than the first time that I tried it. And then what you'll notice is by the fifth or sixth time that you failed this thing, you're going to look back and be so far ahead from the first time that you failed. You can relate that to careers, grades, parenting. You can relate that to any level of life. Okay. And then you want to remove the you from failure. You are not a failure because you didn't do something correctly. The action is what didn't go your way, but you yourself are not a failure. There's some people who may have been conditioned to think that they are a failure, right? But like, if you grew up and your parents are always telling you you're stupid, you're dumb, you can't get it, what's wrong with you, all of these things. Now you have this conditioned mindset that something is truly wrong and that you yourself are a failure. And what it's going to take to change that thought process and to change that narrative is you standing up and saying, I am not a failure. Things have happened to me. I have gone through things, but me, myself, am not a failure. Those actions were lessons, and I'm going to take those lessons, and as everybody like to say, turn them into blessings, right? But you yourself are not a failure, okay? And then it says, take action and reduce the fear. So the only way you can stop being afraid of something is if you just do it. That's literally it. I remember Will Smith was talking about how he was so afraid about going skydiving. And he said when he woke up that morning, he had anxiety around it. When he was eating breakfast, he was thinking about it and the fear was mounting up. And then he said, as he went to the skydiving place, he said he could feel his heart start to beat faster and he started to feel sweat coming out of his pores. And he was just so full of anxiety. And then as the plane got all the way up in the air, he was thinking, man, I cannot do this. He started breathing heavier, all of these things. And then the minute that he jumped, all of the fear went away. And he said it was one of the most peaceful, beautiful experiences of his life. But what he let lead up into that was fear. And fear had nothing to do with the action, because the action actually brought him peace. It was the anxiety that was attached to the action that stressed him out. So there's a lot of things that you may be fearful of, but if you just do the thing you're scared of, if you're afraid of public speaking, go just speak. The ladies who graduated from our program who became coaches, they all said, because I was like, I had an event and I was like, y'all, I want y'all to speak. I was talking to them about speaking and they were all nervous. They were like, I don't know if I can do that. You know, I need more time to prepare. At the event, they didn't know it, but I knew it. I called them up to speak, each of them individually. And guess what happened? They spoke and they did an amazing job because they knew what they knew, and that couldn't be taken away from them whether they were nervous or not. And so they went up there, they said what they had to say, they coached on what they coached on, and they did a phenomenal job. Actually, one of them even had one of the ladies, she started crying because she resonated so well with her story, and then she ended up joining the community too. And then you know what they told me afterwards? They said, had you not pushed me to go past that fear, I would have never done that. So I encourage you, if there's something that you're truly afraid of, go experience it. Go do it. Muster up the courage to go do it, because at the end, we already know what our birth date is, but none of us know what our death date is. And what we accomplish in that dash between our birth date and our death date, that's what matters, is those life experiences and what we can get accomplished during that time period. I was so deathly afraid of sharks until I went scuba diving. And my fear of sharks went away. And I did that because I had to tell myself that I needed to move over a fear of doing something. And the minute that I did that, I felt like I could accomplish anything. Literally anything. So what are you afraid of? And when are you going to put the action in place to say, I'm going to move past this fear? Okay. Then you want to change your response to failure by accepting responsibility. One of the best things that my grandfather ever taught me before he passed, and it's literally the thing that I hold on near and dear to my heart, is he told me, when life happens, you just got to say it is what it is and move on, because you can't do anything about what has happened. You can only change what you do moving forward. And there's been so many instances in my life where I would begin to get stressed out and I would take a really deep breath, a really big, deep, slow breath. And I would just say to myself, it is what it is. What can I do now? But if you get so tied up in trying to project onto other people, if you get so tied up in trying to project your failures onto other people and are looking for people to pat you on the back and say, it's okay, don't worry about it, you're going to be all right, you're never going to grow into whoever you're supposed to become. Because now what you have are enablers to what you're afraid to grow from. Okay, so accept responsibility, accept and say, you know what, it is what it is. I'm here because of X, Y, and Z. This is what I need to do to change that. Some of you, it may be financial. Some of you are living paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of it has to do with the decisions that you have made, because where all of us are today is based off of the decisions that we have made in our past. Now, as you've grown as a person, you can say, this no longer serves me. I want to grow away from this. This is what has held me back. Then I need to, these are some decisions that I need to make or whatever. So as you become aware, then you need to accept that where you are in life is from the decisions that you've made. Take accountability and ownership of that, and then start to move. Okay. Some people are in bad relationships because of the decisions that they made, and you're so busy blaming the spouse, you're not turning the finger around and saying, well, what about me made me accept X, Y, and Z behaviors? Because somebody can only do to you what you allow them to do. Okay, stop pointing the finger at everybody else and start to look at yourself, look at your reflection, and figure out what's going on with you. Okay. And then don't let the failure from outside get inside you. So that's just saying, don't internalize it. And I feel as though, even though like when I have conversations with people around just their relationships with money and all that stuff, there's a deep fear in there. Like they're just like, oh, you should have did better by now. Oh, there's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of all of those things. You can't let that get inside of you. That money is never coming back. The whole purpose of money is to circulate. What you do with the money that circulates through your hands and through your bank account, that's what matters from this point onward. But all that money in the past, whether that was student loan refund checks that you mismanaged, whether that was tax money that you got that you mismanaged, whatever, it's gone and it's not coming back. So now you can make new decisions with new money. And that's what we need to focus on. Okay? Say goodbye to yesterday. All right, so it's gone. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's a new day. Change yourself and your world changes. Period. Change yourself and your world changes. You will be connected to new people, new experiences, new environments once you work on yourself. And it's not to say you necessarily need to go out looking for them, but like-minded people can spot each other out. Birds of a feather, they truly do flock together. Okay. And so whether you want to recognize that or not, maybe you're the bougie one amongst your friends, but all of y'all still ratchet as a collective, birds of a feather will flock together. Okay. So change who you are as a person, grow and develop, and you'll start noticing that the circles that you get around, the environments, the experiences, everything starts to shift. So if your goal is to say, I want to start traveling to more places than Miami and Atlanta, okay, well then if everybody in your circle is only traveling to Miami and Atlanta and nobody has a passport, it sounds to me like you need to do some growing and some developing and get around some new people who has a passport so that they can go and start traveling. Okay? It can be the littlest things like traveling, or it can be the biggest things like growth and development, like seminars, right? Like finding mentors. Absolutely. Coach Tiff said it's a shift. Absolutely. Okay. Get over yourself and start giving yourself. So how are you pouring into yourself on a daily basis to where you can start growing? How are you pouring into yourself? How are you giving to yourself? I don't watch TV. That may surprise a lot of people. I don't watch TV. The only time I don't even watch movies actually, because my mind goes in too many different directions when I'm watching movies. So one thing that I really love to do is I love to read, because it captures me and I can jot down notes and I can stay focused on that. So for me, I'm always in a stage of growing because I'm always reading. But maybe for you, what that looks like is different experiences. Maybe for you, you're a person who likes to go to workshops, and you're picking different types of personal development workshops because that's what really helps you, is being in a collective. But whatever you're doing, put yourself in an environment to where you can grow. You don't want to be the brightest one in your circle. You don't want to be the most ambitious one in your circle. You do not want to be that person. Because the minute that you become that person, much like an overripe banana, you will begin to perish. Okay. Find the benefit in every bad experience. That is so good. And this is something that I recently learned. Finding the benefit in every bad experience. I get excited when I'm no longer in these spurts. So like, for example, for those of you who watch my Instagram grow the way it's grown over the past month and a half, now that that has subsided and I'm like, it's kind of balanced out. Now I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Like what's going on? Like for me, it's not a bad experience, but I'm off of the high. Do you understand? And so every time I come off of the high of something, I start looking for where there's lessons to learn, where there's places for me to navigate. And when things really start happening in my life, I can feel that there's a shift that's happening. So some of you are going through things and you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I feel so uncomfortable in this space? Is because you are being pulled to a higher version of yourself. And you're fighting that because you want to stay in the area of comfortability. But when things happen, you got to start getting excited and start looking for the opportunities of growth. If something happens, sit back and say, what is this trying to teach me? What am I trying to learn from this? What is it that I need to pick up? Because if you don't learn it, it's going to repeat itself. And then the second time it might not be as kind to you as the first time when it happened, right? So the next time y'all are going through something bad, sit back and say, why is this happening? Okay, I see you, God. All right. Okay. All right. You on one right now. Okay. All right. I see you. All right. This is what I need to learn. Okay. All right. Let me try. Is it this? Is this what you wanted me to learn? And you'll know if you got it right or not, because your life will begin to elevate if you get it right. Okay. If at first you do succeed, try something harder. So don't set goals that are just so easy to knock out. that you're like, I did that, didn't I? No, the goal was too easy. If your goal is to say, I want to wake up every day, or I want to wake up tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. to start my day, that is an easy goal to accomplish. Doing that every day for 30 days straight is difficult. So don't set a goal to say, I want to drink water all day tomorrow. That's an easy goal for me. That's so easy. Don't do that. Set goals that are going to push you, stretch you. Okay. Learn from a bad experience and make it a good experience. So we just talked about that, right? Anything that happens is bad. Anything that happens to you that's bad, there's always something good on the other side. If you learn from the bad, then turns the good. Okay. And then work on the weaknesses that weakens you. So you know how we always want to say that there's something wrong with everybody else but us. There's something wrong with you. There is something wrong with you. Everybody has something that's just not perfect. And the best thing you can do is acknowledge what it is and then identify how you're going to work on it. Okay. So nobody is perfect. I know everybody wants to pretend like we're all the best ray of sunshine in the world. I know we all want to be, the brightest star in the sky, but it's just not how life works. And so we all have things, whether it have been from traumas, whether it have been from just different life experiences that may or may not have, tarnished us or have us out here not operating to our full capacity. So the sooner you can recognize what that is, the sooner you can start to work at it. Okay. And then when you work at it, just know finding a therapist is okay. Okay. It's okay to go to therapy. That's what they're paid to do. They're paid to help you navigate through your mind and find what's going to help you best. So if you really want to work on becoming your next best self, therapy is always a great option. Your friends cannot be your therapist. Okay. They can be a lending ear, but they cannot be a therapist. Your spouse can be a lending ear. They cannot be a therapist. Okay. You've got to do the hard work to heal yourself. Okay. They're not licensed in that. So some of y'all need to go to BetterHelp and use your insurance, but go get some help. Okay. Understand, here, two more. Understand there's not much difference between failure and success. If you listen to Steve Harvey, if you listen to Will Smith, if you listen to Eric Thomas, if you listen to C.T. Fletcher, if you listen to anybody, Tony Robbins, any of them, the main thing they talk about is not how easy it was to get to where they were, but what they talk about is how many failures they had to process through to get to become who they became. Okay, so if your goals are associated with career-wise, and you're like, you know what, I love working at where I work. I just want to get to the highest corporate level of where I am, and I just want to continue to grow and achieve that, right? Or I just want to become my best self. It's gonna come through recognizing what those failures are, and it's gonna come from saying that from these experiences, I will create success. All right. And then the last thing is get up, get over it, and get going. So the one thing that I cannot stand, and I say this all the time, is I cannot stand church mentality when it comes to seminars, when it comes to workshops. What I call church mentality is this: when everybody goes, yes, preacher, yes, preacher, yes, yes. And then you go home and continue every trifling thing you said you was fixing to change while you was in the church. That's what I call church mentality. That I cannot stand. If you are in a workshop, if you are in a class, if you are reading a book, if you are in a service, whatever thing you came and you spent your time, the one thing that we cannot get back, time is the biggest currency because we cannot get it back. So you have to spend it wisely. And when you go and you say, I'm going to go spend 2 hours, 3 hours of my time, 4 hours of my time, 3 to 4 days of my life at this experience, what is the actionable step that's coming from it? You have to act on what you hear. And it irks my soul It irks my soul when people sit, listen, and do nothing. So if y'all caught anything from the 15 things I went over in John C. Maxwell's Failing Forward, I need you to write it down. And then right next to it, I need you to write, my action is. Because you didn't just hang out with me, if not for 30 minutes, to just be here chilling. What is your action step? What is your action item? Comment it. Let me know. Y'all been hanging out with me for a half an hour. Learn about how life is like a banana and how we need to move away from comfort zones and stop beating ourselves up about failing at certain things. And I don't even know who this was for, but it was pressing on me so much that I was like, let me go grab a couple of books and go ahead and do this live real quick because somebody needed to hear it. And I don't know who it was, but I'm happy you heard it. But now I want to know, what's your action item? What are you going to do? Then in this book, Believe, this is the random thing that I flipped to that was also when I Googled staying in your how is staying in your comfort zone killing you, biblical reference. That's what I Googled. When I randomly flipped to a page in this book, this is literally what popped up. And I was just like, what? Okay. So here's what it says. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. Oh, let me try this again. I'm sorry, y'all. Here we go. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same work at God, same God at work. Excuse me. So this is where it says, oops, I don't want to break it. It's just so crazy to me. And this is why I knew I had to come on here, because I was like, "Ooh, God gonna be mad at me if I don't say this." Because this exact quote came out and it said, but I with shouts of grateful praise. Okay, it says, so what I have vowed to you, I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. So those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. It says, but I with shouts of grateful praise will sacrifice to you what I vowed, I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. So that's crazy. So I was like, why did that show up twice? So let me just go on and make sure I talk to y'all about the Lord real quick, because everybody needs to talk about him. Everybody. I don't care. You're going to hear about it. I just thought that was wild. So everybody has a gift. Everybody has a purpose. Whether your purpose is to become the best personal individual because you got to go through some things because there's somebody else is looking at you and it's like, dang, if they can go through it, I can go through it. Or maybe you're called to be an entrepreneur, and maybe you're called to impact the lives of thousands and millions. Maybe that's where your calling is. Maybe you are a purpose-filled person and you're just like, I want to follow that, but I'm afraid because what if I try and it doesn't work out? Well, I tell you what, asking yourself that question, you already know the answer because you're never going to get out and try it. So you already failed. So you might as well get up and start failing forward in the right direction. Because as long as you get up and you're doing, you're always succeeding. What success looks like, it can be defined on many different levels. Okay. For some people who are in the belly of depression, sometimes just getting out of bed is a level of success. For some people who are trying to climb the corporate ladder, success for them may be getting a contract signed. Okay. For some people who are entrepreneurs, success for them may look like hitting their first sale. For some people who are entrepreneurs who are growing, a new level of success would look like making $1,000 in a day. But if I'm just starting out as an entrepreneur and I'm trying to get a client, that first client is going to feel like I hit the lottery, because it means that somebody believed in me enough to trust me and learn from me or buy my product or whatever. So how you define success, you can also use that same definition to say how I can define failure, because failing to you might look different than what failing looks like to me. You understand what I'm saying? Failing to you may look like I was only able to get, I didn't make enough this month. I was only able to do $300 in sales, but I'm really trying my best to get to 1,000. That may feel like failure to you. But what if it was my first sale? That's not fair. What if I just hit my first sale? Now $300 in sales is my goal. You hit my goal, but to you it's failure, but to me it's success. How you measure these things is all based off of your own levels of perception. So honestly, there isn't anybody that's on this call that is a failure, because there's something that you've succeeded at that somebody else has looked up to. And there's something that you failed at that somebody else has looked at it and said, that's the measure of where I want to be. If you got your own house, apartment, you pay your own bills, you got your own car, to somebody, that's a level of success. And they're like, dang, if I could just get there. But to you, you may feel like because you drive a Honda and not a Benz, you're failing. But to somebody else, they're at the bus stop like, man, they got a Honda. They're driving. You understand? So everybody really is a success. And to just keep it a full buck with y'all, just to keep it 100, okay? These Benzes and all this like luxury cars you see people have, that's a lot of debt they got attached with it. And there's a lot of people chasing status symbol versus building wealth. And I would much rather drive an owned Honda than have to pay a car note that looks like my rent because I'm trying to look like somebody. Which is also a different defined level of success, because your Honda is an asset. That's an asset. That's ownership. Their Benz, that's a note. That's a liability. By definition, your asset is a wealth builder. A liability is not. So just change how you think. There is gratitude in everything. There is success in, there is gratitude in everything that goes wrong. You can find gratitude. Maybe you were late to work, but you had a job to go to. Maybe you were late on your bills, but you had a way to pay them. You understand? That's great. That's gratitude. Find it and hold on to it. Because if you can hold on to being grateful, there is nothing that can ruin your day. And if you can move through life grateful, then you will always land on a success through whatever failure. Because you will start to picture failures differently. That's so good. And I knew I ain't had nothing to talk to y'all today about, but I woke up this morning knowing that life was like a banana. And I wanted to talk to y'all about it. Find gratitude in every situation in life and understand that every type of failure you go through is achieving some level of success. It's all about how you define failure and how you define success. Okay? But don't be the overripe banana. Don't stay at your current level of comfort and reach your peak before God has called you to peak. You understand? Don't do that. That's all. I hope y'all enjoyed that. So much, Jazz. You came in all late. You know what? I'm going to repeat this life is like a banana part because I actually coached you. So I'm going to talk about it one more time. So life is like a banana. In the beginning stages of life. In the beginning. Okay, I'm joking. In the beginning stages of life, just like a banana is unripe. It's bright green. And technically people would say, I'm not eating that until it turns yellow. So just like us at a very unripe stage in life, we're green, we're new, we're unaware, we're just living, right? And then once the banana becomes ripe, which is becomes like time to eat it, right? It's yellow. And so at that stage in life, this is when we're saying we are ready to go. We're ready to go live life. We're between the ages of 18 and 21, and we are ready to be out here. Now, we haven't had any true life experiences to hit us, so we're just going out here ready to take on the world. But there comes a point in the stages of a banana where it starts to have all these brown spots on it, right? And at this point in time, depending on how you look at the banana really matters, because if my children see a spotted banana, they're going to think that something is wrong with it. It's old. They'll only eat a banana when it's fully yellow. But at this part of our lives, where this is where we're going through things, this is the building character stage of life. This is where, you might have had some bad breakups. You might have gone through some traumas or whatever the case may be. You might have had some success stories in your life happen. You might have seen these just variations. But at the end of the day, life has started to beat you up, and you started to learn about yourself. You started to say, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is my standards. This is how I want to be treated. This is how I would like people to talk to me, interact with me, all of that. This happens at this stage of life where it starts to beat you up a little bit and you really start to learn yourself. Because my children would look at a banana spotted like this, looking beat up, and say, I don't want to eat it. But for me, I see that and I say, dang, that's going to be sweet in the inside. And that's exactly what happens to us when life starts hitting us. We start to get to know ourselves better, and we become sweeter with ourselves in the inside, right? We start to really get to understand ourselves. And then the banana becomes overripe. And when the banana becomes overripe, you have to make a decision. You're either going to say, all right, I'm going to take this overripe banana and I'm going to make some banana bread with it, or I'm going to throw it away. So with life, you have to determine, if you're in your overripe stage of life, if you're going to start making decisions to say, I really need to move into a growth zone and start doing some things with myself, or am I just so complacent that my life is what it is? And if you're so complacent with your life being in an is what it is standpoint, then that means that you are stuck in your comfort zone. And just like an overripe banana, you will begin to perish. Many people say that your comfort zone is where you will die. Your comfort zone will kill you, because the minute you stop working at yourself, that's the minute you start to revert. And that could be just with strengthening your mind. Okay. The minute you stop, I don't know how many times they say, like, elders who work and stay active live so much longer than the elders who don't keep an active mind, because they stop working at it. Just because physically they might not be able to do as much, mentally, because they stop working on themselves mentally. They stop reading or doing crossword puzzles or whatever the case may be, and now they're just stuck. Okay. They start to revert. So you have to determine what part of your life you're in. Where's your journey? What part of the banana are you? What stage are you in your banana life? I don't know, y'all. That was too good for me not to talk about. I don't know if y'all liked it, but for me, I was like, ooh, this is good. I need to talk to y'all. For me, I thought it was dope. I thought it was cool, because I was looking, I said, has anybody talked about this before? How life is like a banana? And there was like a Asian song that came up, but I can't understand the handwriting to understand the music to understand if that's what they were talking about or not. But I thought it was cool. So I hope y'all enjoyed hanging out with me on live today. The two books that I was talking about, one is Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell. And I actually had the pleasure of learning from him in person at the Believe Nation event this past year. I was able to learn from him in person, and I have a notebook. Well, a notebook that has a few pages of notes from the things that I've learned from him. So I have a couple of John C. Maxwell books. And then the other one was this Believe book that I bought from Goodwill. So if you want to start your reading journey with just growing in different places, I definitely suggest y'all pop on over to Goodwill, because you can get most books for like $2. And I've seen a bunch of Dave Ramsey books there. I've seen different money, financial books there, personal development books. I've seen all of that stuff. Actually, I even picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad was at Goodwill too. So you can get them half off for like a couple of bucks. So if you don't have a library that you've been building, start there. That way you can grab those things for affordable. I enjoy this. For me, I receive, you are not too old to turn things around. Yes. So let me know what your action item is. Thank you for sharing that with me. Oh, Coach Tip said, get her book too. Yes. If you haven't bought your book, y'all, please buy it. That is all about the foundation, where your relationship with money has started, how you're going to identify, okay, this is why I operate with money the way that I do, identifying those triggers around your money, and then creating healthy boundaries around those triggers. So that book has helped so many women literally across the world. It's been sold in 7 countries. My book's been sold in 7 countries in 37 states. So I'm very, very proud of that. So if you haven't purchased it, purchase it. Every book is personally signed and sent off by me. And you also get a complimentary gift in there for purchasing your book. So I can't wait to watch you guys grow. Please check it out. Look at all the reviews. And yeah, that'll do it for tonight, you guys. Have a good one. Oh, sorry. Last church announcement. My bad. The stock class that I taught. So I got a bunch of questions about this. So I taught a class on investing in stocks 101. Okay. That class sold out in a week and a half, and it had 100 seats available. So it sold completely out. I taught it yesterday, and there were so many phenomenal reviews from it. When I'm talking about, we went through the nitty gritty of the stock market. I went through everything, the terminology, fundamental analysis, technical analysis. But when I got to technical analysis, one thing I didn't do and I don't like to do is I'm not a screenshot picture type of person. So I went into the charts, I marked up things, I made sure they understood like the basic stuff you need to understand around technical analysis. So understanding what your trends are, support and resistance, what this looked like. I'm marking them up and I'm quizzing them as they're going through it. And so they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually understood this. It was awesome. So then after we did the technical analysis of the market, then I wanted to show them how to buy. We talked about the brokers for national and international, because in that class we had people from 5 different countries in that class out of those 100 students. And so after we went over the brokers, then that's what we were talking about: how to buy, when to buy, how to sell, when to sell, what to be looking for. And I thought to myself, what better way to show y'all this than to actually go into one of my self-managed portfolios? Because again, I do not like the screenshot type of life. So I logged into one of my self-managed brokerage portfolios. I showed them the unrealized gains versus the unrealized losses. I showed them the cash equity. I showed them, the cash versus the equity. I showed them the stocks, and I was showing them everything that was broken down in there. And then I went in and I showed them, this is how you execute a market buy. This is how you execute a limit buy. This is how you execute a sell. Showed them everything, because when you do things off of screenshot versus the actual walkthrough, sometimes the information just isn't received as well. So I wanted to hold their hand and take them through that process. And they found so much like information in what we went over. And then class was only supposed to be an hour and a half, but I actually stayed on for about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. And I was answering questions and just making sure that they understood everything. So because of the amount of DMs that I've gotten, the amount of comments that I've gotten under my reels, and the amount of just requests from people like, hey, I want to buy this for other people too, I was going to take that recording, chop it down, and sell the copies of it. What I decided to do instead is I'm going to teach one last live class, and that's going to be on September the 3rd. Okay. That's the last live class that I'll be doing on stock investing. After that, I will be selling the recordings. Now, everyone who is taking the class, they do get access to the recordings as well as the resources. They got access to the Japanese Candlestick Bible. They got access to, it was like 12 resources. So they got access to all of that stuff. When I teach this class on the 3rd, this will be the last time that I teach it. Then at that point, it will be sold or being sold as a class, like a recorded class with the resources and stuff. So if you want to attend the live session, it's $39.99. Okay. I could have made it more, but I want people to learn the information so that you can start investing in these markets. Okay. So it's $39.99. You can click the link in my bio. You can register for class. There were about 30 seats that were purchased yesterday when I announced this on my last live. So you want to make sure that you get it, because once this class is full, that's it. Then you will have to wait for the recording. But I want to give people the opportunity who were trying to get in last time but couldn't because the class sold out and I couldn't open up any more seats. Like, I was trying to figure out how to live stream from my other thing, and I was like, I can't add it. Zoom had blocked me out at 100, and I didn't want to switch it over to a webinar. So if you're going to grab your seat in class, I would definitely suggest that you do it. The last class sold out in a week and a half. About 30 seats were purchased on yesterday's live. So if you're going to get in there, please get in there, because once this sells out, that's going to be it for me teaching the live class. I have other things that I want to teach you guys. Okay. Thanks, Kashnichi. Yes, I appreciate you, sis. So everybody who's tuning in from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, you guys have a wonderful night. I'll talk to you later. And then for the people who are on IG, I will hang tight for you guys.